Your Kansas City Chiefs are AFC West champions, but stop me if you've heard this before. They're waiting to find out about one of their offensive tackles today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everyone. We're brought to you by Prize Picks today. You can get in the action. Download the app. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, to win $50 instantly when you play just $5. Check it out at Prize Picks. We are going to check it out. Late news this afternoon we're going to get to coming up. Upon further review, where are the Chiefs sitting? That is later in the show. The comebacks and the letdowns. Who was a riser and who was a faller in this ball game? What do they have to look forward to? And we are going to start with the news of the day. Very, very intriguing. He's Chris Clark. I'm Ryan Tracy. Check out KC Chiefs Corner for everything that Chris does. You can find me over at NFL33.com and RGRfootball.com. You can also find out if you want to get into the athletic matrix, because it's just about that time to start looking at draft prospects at RogueAPC.com. Thanks for being with us. Make us your first listen. Make your next one another Locked On show. We very much appreciate it. Thanks for being with us every day, like our everyday locos. And they are here every single day on all the platforms, and you can get a conversation going just where they do at 816-357-8781. This is going to be a lot of fun. News of the day up first. Waiting on the injury news for DJ Humphries, the newest acquisition that is trying to solidify. And on further reflection, I think did do a decent job for a guy that was super, super rusty. And he had a report today that he felt better coming in this morning, the day after what is obviously a soft tissue injury of some kind. But they are waiting on results of an MRI before they can tell us any more. I'm not terribly surprised. A man of that size, you want to do everything that you can to take it easy on him now, get the results, get imagery that helps you diagnose it, because I do feel they rushed him into it. Maybe they felt they needed it, but now they have to make sure that they take full advantage of everything they can to help him heal.
Yeah, and I do think that what it comes down to is exactly what you just said. They rushed him into it. They did not give him a chance to get acclimated. They didn't give him a chance to get ready. And as much as we like to talk about these players being plug and play, they're not. The reality is he's been out of football for almost a year and didn't have enough practice time, had one padded practice, I think is what I heard. Yep. And at that point, you're not going to be ready to play. And to play, let's see, I'm trying to see. He played 60 of 69 snaps, so it's not like he didn't make it most of the game. Mm-hmm. He was there most of the game. So you get to a point where you think that, okay, that kind of soft tissue injury is not going to be as big of a deal, because I think he was still walking around on it, says he feels better. Maybe it's something that keeps him out of this next week, and it would probably be smarter of the Chiefs to keep him out this week if there's an injury that they think could linger, because they have a rough slate, as we talked about, of 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't a great outing. I mean, it wasn't a bad outing. Again, for all of that circumstance about getting him onto the field, I felt that he played pretty dang well, to tell you the truth, especially against Mack and Bosa. He did end up, Next Gen had it at 8 pressures. PFF has it at 5, so it's somewhere in between, depending on what you think the assignment was. But he did give up a sack, and he did give up a couple of hits. And that's the key thing, because by my count, Juwan Taylor gave up 1. And other than that, Trey Smith 2. So too many contacts with Patrick. Overall, that stacked out to 10 hits, 10 things. And for those of you who've been around here for a long time, Chris and I have been doing this show for going on, 8,000 years. But I used to track quarterback contacts, the hits and the sacks combined. How many times a quarterback got beat around and got hit by a pass rusher? That has its toll. And I think it's something I might go revive at this point, to tell you the truth, because it starts to stack up. So while it was, I think, a decent outing for him as his first action as a Chief, they can't let him go back out there until he's healthy enough to build upon it. They can't have him come down and perform worse than that, in my opinion.
And it's really hard because you're in between a rock and a hard place right now. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in a later segment about the playoff seeding and what you're looking at in the next week, which will play into all of these decisions that they've got to make. that are coming up. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the reality is like we both said, they rushed him into this. He wasn't ready to go, and now they're dealing with a little bit of an injury. You hope that it's just a very, very mild hamstring injury, and if it keeps him out of this week's game against the Browns, it's not the best situation, obviously, because then you have to feel like you probably go back to Wanya Morris, because I don't think that you're going to be moving Tooney out there for a game. I just don't see them doing that. I think that's a bad risk, not only for his position, but also because of injury. With him not usually playing out there, it's a little bit of a different position. Don't want to put him in that spot and maybe risk losing him. So to me, I think you're looking at this, and I think you have to make the best decision for your team. And it has to be a long-term decision, not just short-term. And if he has to sit this week, he has to sit this week, because they'll be playing on Saturday on a short week anyway. So try to get him as healthy as you possibly can. But I will say this, for a guy that didn't play in the preseason, didn't play in training camp, didn't do anything, I thought he looked pretty good. Yes, he got beat. Yes, it was a rough outing, but you have to realize this is his first playing since last year. Mm-hmm. It's not something where you can just step on a field and be your best. I mean, that's just not the reality of the situation when you're coming back from an injury.
Yeah, not even close. I mean, and for what he is an older late season acquisition, I thought that was a pretty decent day. The Chiefs just made another one. A new old CB is back on the roster. Steven Nelson was signed this afternoon. It got in under the wire and actually hit the transaction wire for the NFL today. So he is there, signed to the practice squad, replacing Nico Rumizio, who got bumped up and actually signed to the 53 so they could replace McCole Hardman. So a little bit of rigmarole here, but let's hope that Steven Nelson is as capable of jumping back into the fray after actually retiring. He's going to get a chance to play some reps, to bring some edge to that corner room, and maybe help out the young guys along the way.
The reality is I don't think he's going to be available this week, which I wouldn't put him out there this week regardless. And hopefully he's more depth than he is that they're thinking is going to come and start. When we're hoping Josh Williams is going to be okay, he'll be able to come back. I know he struggled a little bit, but you don't want to throw Steven Nelson out there after being, especially at the quarterback or at the cornerback position. You don't want to throw a guy that hasn't played all season out there and risk losing him for some kind of injury as well. So I think if you can bring him along slowly, maybe he plays in the Texans game. But I think the most likely scenario would be that he be coming in for the Steelers game, his old team.
Mm-hmm. That could very well be. We're going to have to find out. We'll have more of an update tomorrow once we see him on the practice field and see what's going on there. But there are other players that are coming back and on the rise, and some they're taking a couple of steps backwards. Who are they? What did we learn yesterday? Coming up next. Hey, Locked On Chiefs fans. If you're like me and your holiday shopping list is a little bit far from complete, as mine is, we've got something for you that you're going to like. It's fully licensed. Ice Shaker is with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, pretty much any acronym of sports you can think of, they are there. They've sold over 1 million bottles, and it's the thing that has changed workout structures. This gift is for everyone. Go to iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to check out and save 25%. It's kitchen-grade stainless steel bottles that won't absorb odor or anything else like plastic bottles do. They're third-party tested, and there's a ton of it that you can go find out there. They're customizable. You can put anything on them. So right now, you can order your branded team bottles at iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off of your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at PrizePicks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Game Time app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that $50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at PrizePicks. Now you got to enjoy when you're getting after it, right?
Yeah, and for anybody wondering, here's what those shakers look like. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I've
that
really
looks
enjoyed
good.
it. Yeah, it's
Well,
good.
and it's a theme. And it's got a nice little rubberized coating on the bottom because mine always wants to slide around. So, and it fit in the truck cup holders. Always a big plus. Sorry.
Yeah.
I digress what I look for in a stainless mug. But much like they're making a comeback, so are some other players. We talked post game, for those of you that weren't up as late as we were, had a good conversation with Matt Derrick. And we talked about some of the guys that stood out at the time. But on for the review, a couple of things continue to stand out about just how good they're doing. And to kind of piggyback on our last topic, Wanya Morris, kudos to him. Came in and had 3 pass block opportunities, did give up pressure. I know that sounds silly to say, oh, hey, 3 snaps and you didn't collapse. Well, good job. It was the end of the ball game, obviously, and you still had premier pass rushers out there. So it's a step forward, and hopefully something maybe will help his confidence a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing you have to throw out there with Wanya is he is coming on. I mean, he's still got his knee injury that he's dealing with, and I do think that not going the entire game really helps. Coming out cold is probably not the best thing, but as Matt said last night on our show, it also gives you a little bit of an adrenaline shot. So maybe for those first couple of snaps you're out there, you have extra adrenaline in your body because it's not something you were expecting to do. So, kudos to him for coming out there and doing a good job. I think that that's important that he continues to maybe grow and show that he can play. Obviously, I think it's Humphries' job to lose for the rest of the year. And hopefully he's able to come in and play at least 3 of the next 4 games. I'm not as optimistic about 4 or 4, but we'll see.
Yeah, you never quite know. Kudos, and I hope that he gets back to Joshua Williams. Ended up, he did give up 100% completion rate, but for 25 yards on the night. And I don't know, they didn't classify it today, but looks like a neck thing, possibly a stinger, something neuro, something hopefully that will subside with time here. So hopefully he's back in there because we've seen, 7 guys run at CB2. They're hoping to get somebody to settle that down. Doesn't sound like Jalen Watson's going to make it back this season. So hopefully Joshua Williams can't.
Yeah, and that's important. And we'll see what they get with Steven Nelson over the next couple of weeks. Again, I don't think he plays next week, obviously, but maybe he plays. Maybe they bring him back for the Texans game. We'll see. The other reality, and this is something we'll talk a lot more about in the next segment, is they're also probably going to be in a situation where, and we talked about this last night, if they win 3 out of their next 4, if they could find a way to win the next 3 games, they're the number 1 seed. And then maybe you have some of these issues that go away with being able to rest some guys and getting some younger guys some experience that they're really going to need going into the playoffs. So I do think that could help the cornerback position as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unfortunately, there's a negative side to every ball game as well. And one position group in particular stands out to me. And it's a group that we've talked about a little bit, but mostly in terms of doing something that's not supposed to do. Tamari Connor obviously was targeted as more of a nickel corner a lot, but it's out of 13 guys who got rankings, who were out there on the field in coverage, 3 of the bottom 4 are the other safeties in Justin Reed and Brian Cook and Jaden Hicks. Rough game for Hicks. Blew 2 assignments that I was aware of just watching it. I'm sure there's a couple others there that I'll see on all 22 at some point, but this is what it comes down to. The Chiefs don't have a true free safety. They have 4 space players that are either box safeties or robber types that can play a little bit deeper but still need that space. The true center field read the quarterback guy is not on this roster. And they did this knowingly. They felt that they can compensate and guys can learn. Right now it's not coming along fast enough. And I felt particularly bad because I felt like they put Jaden Hicks too much as a single high in particular, but that free safety by himself, he hadn't had, I'm looking here, more than 4 snaps, played 17 single high last night. Too much for him.
Well, the other side of that, though, is who they took out to let him do that is Brian Cook. And that was kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting to see that. I will say this. I love what Brian Cook brings to the game. I don't think he's fully back from his injury, and I think that it's showing just a little bit, and I think it's kind of the wear and tear is kind of catching up to him at this point in the year. So maybe that's part of the reason that they gave Hicks more snaps. Although I will say I'm also a little surprised that they didn't take some snaps away from Justin Reed. It's not to take away snaps from Reed, but if they're going to have him kick off, that is really basically another snap for him. And you have to start worrying about his body. And for people that say that he's just kicking off, no, he's trying to make a tackle. That's the reason that they're having him out there. He's trying to run almost the length of the field like they used to do to try to make a tackle. So he's going to take some shots, or he's going to be delivering shots.
Yeah, you're right. Along those notes, though, I did want to throw out a little note. I think it was also a very short night. 3 coverage snaps for Keith Taylor. But I did notice during the ball game that the fact that he's been around and he's not a first or second year player, he was communicating out there. Now, I don't think that he's as talented physically as the rest of the corner group right now, but he was being active. He was trying to communicate, understand what he was supposed to do, ended up grading out okay. So maybe that's a ray of sunshine at the corner group as well.
Yeah, and he's going to need to continue to get some snaps over the next couple of weeks, so that if he can continue improving and just giving them something. Don't forget, I mean, you had a guy step in last year, and right now his name is going away from me in the playoff game, but getting an interception in the playoff game. So you're gonna need guys to be able to step up. You're gonna need guys to get experience, and it doesn't matter if they're getting experience against a team like they played in the Chargers, or they're going to get experience against the Browns. NFL experience and game experience is what's important, and getting up to that speed, because it is a different game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. On the offensive side, one guy that I do want to shout out on the positive side, other than Samaje Perine, who did have that nice screen pass, the guy that I don't think is getting enough credit right now because he's playing physical, he's in the rush game out there as a blocker. JuJu Smith-Schuster averaged 15.5 a catch last night, 2 for 2 on target, same as Worthy, a perfect 5 for 5. It's coming together. You know what I mean? Like having him out there, I think, is a stabilizing factor.
Yeah, it really is, and he looked great. I thought he really looked good for what he was doing. He is the issue that you're running into, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next segment as well. But he's kind of the same type of player. Same type, not the same player, same type as DeAndre Hopkins. So they do a lot of the same things, and they're going to have a little bit of spillover and not usually be on the field at the same time together. Yes, they can do different things and get things taken care of. But, I'm really curious to see what they continue to do with JuJu. The other thing, when you talk about JuJu and what he brings, is are they looking at him from the perspective of we need to keep a small number of snaps on him because we want him available for the playoffs? Because that is a big deal. If keeping him healthy and getting him to the point where, I mean, you saw what he could do early in the season where he had a game where he went over 100 yards. Wasn't expected to have a huge game, came out and performed and showed that he still has the ability to do that from time to time. And that's all you need. You need players that can step up when their number is called and when they're needed the most. And JuJu has shown that he can do that consistently with this team. This team knows how to use him, and that's very important.
Yeah, and they're going to have to continue. Now, the other things that they're going to have to continue is to ride the trends. What stands out and where are they come playoffs coming up next? Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5 and you get $150 back in bonus bets if you win right now. FanDuel Sportsbook, the app, gives you everything that you need to get bets in place for the NFL all in one place. So when you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check out the latest stats, you live by that play-by-play, you can do that and much more on the same page right where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today and join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now I always like running down the effects of the weekend. If you want to see more, Chris runs it down over on KC Chiefs Corner. You can check it out for me on NFL33.com and obviously on RGR Football. A lot going on, but as they sit right now, there's a lot of scenarios out there. And you mentioned before we started recording, one of my favorite ones. So lay it out for us. Where are they?
So I do want to get there, but I do want to say before I forget, because this, I think, also needs to be watched. DeAndre Hopkins continues to be between 50 to to just under 60% of the snaps, and I do think that plays into things. I think they're watching a snap count for the playoffs, kind of like we talked about Juju, but also because of that trade. If he got over 60% of the snaps, it's a 4th-round pick if they make it to the Super Bowl. So I think that they're watching that. The scenario I laid out, though, is if they win this week against the Browns, and they have the first game of all 3 of them, actually, so they won't know when they play. But if they win against the Browns and the Bills lose to the Lions and they play in Detroit and the Steelers lose to the Eagles and they play in Philadelphia, Kansas City could be looking at locking up the number 1 seed already.
That's crazy. So the top 2 NFC teams are about to play the Chiefs' top 2 chasers in the standings in the AFC and could end up just knocking everybody out for the Chiefs. Right now, all the Chiefs got to do is take care of business against the Browns. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. And how crazy is that we're talking about that in, what is this going to be, I guess it'd be week 14?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, that's just nuts that we're talking about a scenario where they could essentially be the number 1 seed. And we'll know. I mean, I think that's the crazy thing. They've already locked up the AFC West for the 9th straight season. And while I know that I hate it, and I know a lot of other people hate it because it's not good on the heart, one thing that we have to say about the way that they're playing is, generally speaking, when you get into the playoffs, you're going to be playing close, tough games. And they are built to play close, tough games. And let's also be honest about it. They're going to be, if they can stay healthy the rest of the season, if they don't really lose anybody else, which obviously is a big if, and Humphries can get back to even 90% of what he was, 85 to 90% of what he was originally, they're going to be in a great spot for the playoffs. But that doesn't even take into account getting Hollywood Brown back, who we both know they had a huge role for in this offense.
Oh, yeah.
And I guarantee you they had a ton of plays. Well, maybe not a ton of plays, but they have plays specifically designed for him that they haven't run, or they haven't had somebody be able to run them because they wanted him to run them. And I guarantee you that's going to come out for the playoffs. And I think that one of the things that they'll be doing with Hollywood when he comes back is he'll definitely be on a pitch count because they don't want him to get hurt again. But they're going to make sure when he's out there, he's probably going to be their first target almost every time that he's out there on the field for the first couple of snaps. And they're going to be going to him.
Yeah, you got to get him up to speed. There's no way around it. That sets up pretty well for what they have to do, and that is find out the situation with these injuries at corner, at left tackle. Stop me if I'm repeating myself, folks. We've been talking about these 2 positions since, I don't know, before the last draft, and we're still in this situation. So it's going to continue, but the prospect of getting another weapon back for Mahomes and the prospect of having a little bit more time back, I felt, and I got to go compare just the time to throw over the last couple. I want to say, don't be surprised here, right? You want to look at ADOT. There's been 4 games that Patrick Mahomes has been over 7.5 in average depth of target this season. 2 of them have been the last 2 weeks back to back. So half of it so far. When you look at time to throw, last night was a little bit quicker, 2.6. The last couple of games, the last 1, 2, 3, 4 games have been 2.8 or longer to the time that he delivered the ball. If they can solidify that, get that steadily above 3 seconds to throw the ball, he's going to be in good shape.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think that they try that this week. This goes back to what I said last night, especially if they don't play DJ Humphries. If I'm them and I'm looking at the Browns, I'm saying, okay, we're not going to give Myles Garrett a chance. We're going to play the quick no-huddle type game, and we're going to get the ball out. And if he doesn't get his first or quick second read, he's going to throw the ball away, and we're not going to risk him getting hit from the blind side or risk that Browns pass rush because it is formidable, and this offensive line has not looked good. Patrick doesn't need to have 2 back-to-back games where he is just getting battered because he got battered against the Chargers. Yeah. And so to me, I think that they need to try to go quicker as much as they possibly can this week and keep it closer to 2.5 seconds. I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you from the standpoint of if they can provide the ability to do that, that'd be great. But the other thing that we really didn't see this game is they didn't really take any deep shots. There was really I mean, they didn't really use Worthy in the capacity that you'd hope that they would use Worthy. And I think that's got to change too. So that's going to be something to watch over the coming weeks. But you're in a great spot. I mean, obviously, 12-1, you won the division already. You've got that locked up. You have a chance at locking up the number 1 seed this next week. It's possible. I'm not going to say I think it's likely, but I would say it's possible. And in that scenario, I mean, you're everywhere you want to be. And then at that point, if you basically lock up the number 1 seed this week, you get to decide who's going to be able to play and how many times you're going to get some of your players out there and risk them to injury, and who you want to get in there to try to get experience. And I think that's huge for this team, because we know that their goal is to be playing in February. And you need some of these veterans that have been here the entire time, that have played these last 10 weeks banged up since last 8 weeks banged up since the last bye week. They need some time off. And you could give them some time off before you actually give the whole team some time off to an extent. And maybe Travis Kelce plays, but maybe he only plays 20 or 30% of the snaps, and you get Noah Gray in there, and you get the other tight end in there, whether it's going to be Kupp or it's going to be Ferkser. Maybe you give Clyde some time and get your some wear and tear off of Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. I would be fine with that too. There's some things you can do, because you're in a situation now where if you lock up the number 1 seed, you can start making some decisions and get some other guys playing time or hold some people out.
Well, and getting it and keeping it is something you have to concentrate on, because it doesn't get any easier. The left tackle will continue to be the position we talk about for I don't even know how long, basically until the end of the season. There's no other way around it, because listen to this. You got Myles Garrett, arguably the best pass rusher in this league right now, this coming week. Then starts the 10-day stretch, right? Then you get Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter back-to-back in the Texans pass rush coming at you then. And then on just 4 days, you then get the other guy that's arguably the best pass rusher in this league, and TJ Watt on Christmas Day. And then if you get through all that, you still have to go against Nick Petito, who ate you up last time.
And not to mention that while he is not TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith has been getting to the quarterback very quickly this year. TJ Watt, and at least the last time I looked, and it may not, obviously, I think this was 2 weeks ago, so it's probably changed. But TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith were, I think, 1 and 2 in quickest to pressure the quarterback. And that's on one team.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
It certainly is. And we're going to have to figure that out. We're going to go over it in depth with Matt Derrick tomorrow. We're going to take a look at the other side coming against the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss that. And then we're going to set you all up for what we got to do and how we think. Maybe we'll do this on next Friday preview of how we think a 1-point game is going to come off again for this Kansas City Chiefs team.
Do we really have to choose for a 1-point game against the 3-win team? Can we just have one game where we're not like begging for mercy at the end of the game? Like
Patrick, I hope you're listening.
And the frustrating part was they started the game off and they were up 13-0. And then all of a sudden they're down 14-13.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I understand how it happens. It's very aggravating. Because generally speaking, if you go watch the defense, the Chiefs defense, generally speaking, will give up a touchdown on one of the first 2 or 3 drives. They played phenomenal in the first half, and then they couldn't do anything to start the second. And
the other team made adjustments too, and I do credit them. This, especially division foe who's already played you once, that was a tricky situation. So, not the same thing with the Cleveland Browns. So maybe I'm being facetious, but
maybe Jameis will be nice and give us some picks.
You never know. But you guys are going to have to watch on Friday when we give you the game preview to figure out what we're going to do. Thank you for being with us. We very much appreciate you. Like, sub, hit the bell. Join us here every single day because we are 5 days a week for free everywhere. Check out another Locked On show for your next one. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.